Welcome to another episode of Blood, Guts, and Thunder, the first web show dedicated exclusively to the Canadian soccer with a special focus on the national teams. We've had a whole lot of action this month, and we have a lot to talk about. So let's get right into it. Got my producer James Sutherland here today. We're going to be talking about qualifiers this month, the Gold Cup in July, and of course the upcoming Ocho. So how are you doing, James?
My man, Keiran, it's been a while. What are we on episode 5 right now? And I have yet to join because I firmly believe I have a face for radio. So here I am, finally joining you, and I know the viewers can't see it, that awful Toronto Maple Leafs poster you have in the background. No one else can see it but me. I got it cut off on the screen right now because nobody wants to see it, but I'm happy to be here to talk with you.
And James is, working hard behind the scenes in every episode, and it's deservedly is getting his chance in the spotlight here. So, the first thing I want to talk about was Suriname, because I really hyped them up personally. I brought in someone from Suriname to talk about it. I made multiple guests argue with me about how bad we would do against them. And I'm curious, do you think they were a bust? Do you think we overhyped them? Do you think we underhyped ourselves? Or were we that good? Were we good enough to beat them the way we did?
You know what, Kieran? I'm going to give you the most cop-out answer onto that. I'm going to say it was everything. We did all those things, check mark, because I think Suriname is a good team, not only on paper. Like, the first 30 minutes showed that they can play, they can compete, they can push.
Almost scored.
They almost scored. As we talked a little bit before off air, I don't think that goal would have changed the result. I still think Canada wins that game. Not as handily, but I still think Suriname goes on to lose that game despite this momentum. Anyway, I think we overvalued them, but still, I think we should always think they're a good team. They're going to have a good Gold Cup run if they have the same roster they just had. They're going to do some damage, and I think if they get some more, this team will help recruit players in the future to play for this program who aren't necessarily born in Suriname. They may be coming from a different country, regardless. And then we also undervalued Canada as well, like rightfully so. Everyone watched Haiti 2019, right? We all saw that, and then there's fans before. Everyone saw Canada, Honduras. Everyone saw it, even outside of World Cup. We saw Canada, the away leg in the Nations League down in USA, just absolutely drop an egg. We're down 3. Was it 3-0 in the first half? We had every right to undervalue Canada, overvalue Suriname. But I think at the end of the day, I think we should just start accepting that we are good enough to beat teams that look good. And I think, I think it's just a combination of everything you just said. Like, we did all those things and then some, and then there's also on both sides, we overvalued Suriname, but they're a good team. They still pushed us. And they can push other teams. I can see them easily playing against, Haiti, getting the result. They can play Panama, Curacao, all these teams who were on the rise. Suriname could definitely push the limit with these guys.
My take on Twitter was that I think if they were in any other group, they would have pretty handily been heading their way to the Ocho.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we were just before the show we were talking a bit about our reaction to banter from other fans versus what we saw on the broadcast. So first of all, I don't know, if you're not a weird obsessed Canadian soccer fan arguing with Suriname fans on Twitter, what was going on?
It's so funny, and I made sure to tweet about it from the account, and I will tweet about it from my personal account if I have to. As soon as we won, it was just like, where are all the Suriname fans now? Because I've never seen, maybe because I was just focused on this match, so it could just be one of those blinder situations where I'm sure there's been other matches that have had much more banter. Scotland, England is probably a good example. But this match, for whatever reason, Suriname supporters, any Caribbean football supporters, video hosts were just saying, this is a walk in the park for Suriname. We have players from Europe. Who do you have? Besides Alphonso Davies, who's a starting 11, for the best players in the 11 right now, we have Jonathan David, who's a champion in France. Okay, so we only have MLS players. We have quite a few MLS players, but they are high quality players, and many of those players are being looked at by pro Turkey scout Atiba Hutchinson right now. So it was I could go on and on about it in a not safe for work setting about how unnecessary and out of place the banter was from Suriname fans, Caribbean fans who didn't know anything about Team Canada. And, they don't have to know a thing. I didn't know anything about the Suriname team going into this match before, But, God, was it annoying. How annoying were those fans? And you don't have to give me your honest answer, but it was an absolute joke. I could not believe some of the things 6-0 easy. We have Ryan Donk Great. Did you see him how slow he was? Did you see that nice little elbow he had on Davey? He's like, get out of here. God.
And but yeah, I love how we couldn't tell whether that was a celebration. He's crying out in pain. I don't know. That was awful.
I'll give
Um,
one thing, not to deviate too much and not to give Davies a hard time here, but that was a true elbow to the head. Not taken away from it. Adrenaline wore off. He was hurt. Davies does sell it sometimes. He's a tough kid. He goes through. He does not go to the ground a lot. We saw in that one goal. We got knocked over, got picked up the ball, put in. But every now and then, Davies has a moment, as all soccer players do now of a certain generation. Just they go down a little too easy. So I'm somewhere in the middle with that elbow. It was a true smack to the head. Donk's a big boy. I think Davies sold it just a little bit. I don't know. Maybe it hurt that much. Maybe someone needs to hit me in the face that hard, and we'll see.
um, and just on the note of that banter going on between countries, um, I think there's a difference between us screaming at Suriname fans and, dedicating a good 10 minutes to them here and doing it on a live broadcast where, the game is going on and people are shooting the ball at the net and, Gareth Wheeler is talking about how mean the Suriname fans were on Twitter. Do you think that's a thing that should be happening on a broadcast?
Well, I mean,
Because I don't know. I had to tune out when that happened. It was just I don't know. It was really unprofessional to me.
here's what I'll say about Gareth Wheeler. Great color guy. He would be a great color guy. Fill in those dead spots, fill in those moments of silence. Lots of insight, great commentary, pretty funny guy. I don't believe. Hey, so and then Gareth, tweet back at us. I doubt it, but hey, who knows? Gareth, feel free to tweet back at us and tell us why you're the good man for the job because I think he's a great commentator. I think he adds a lot. I think he's a great analyst. I think he has a lot of things to add. Play by play, he is not the great guy for soccer. I think you can tell a great soccer commentator for the moments that are silent, not because not because there's nothing to say. I think you just let the game play. And a lot of radio guys are taught, and rightfully so, fill the air, fill the time. When there's dead air, no dead air. Talk, 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 talk. Gareth, man, if that's what you're going to talk about, if you're going to talk about Suriname banter on live broadcast for one of Canada's biggest games of the decade, if not even longer, 2 decades, it's okay. You don't have to talk about it.
I mean, it's a fair point, but I think here's Johnny David might have a response.
Oh God, yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, I think I tweeted about that from the BGT account. Yeah, not again. That's the thing. He's the way he went up on Jonathan David. Stop there. Stop right there. You were so good. It was great. It was so natural.
Almost there.
And then just force fed us something we didn't need. And hey, you know what? Maybe that's just one soccer to a T right there.
My favorite was the rich get richer from the Bermuda game when Larea scored. That was ooh,
You know what?
okay.
I didn't hate that. I didn't hate that, Keiran.
Okay, I don't know. Maybe just puns. Okay, so moving on to soccer.
Yeah, let's get to
game.
it. Yeah.
So we should talk about what we actually saw. Over these 4 games.
Yes.
So against Haiti specifically, a lot of people were worried that they had some sort of magic. That sort of magic we saw at the Gold Cup when they just played long balls over Coutinho and crossed it in every chance they got. What did we do? What do you think we did to prevent that from happening? What was the difference between these 2 legs and what we saw at the Gold Cup?
I mean, I'm going to try and keep it just a few sentences here, but I'll probably go much longer. I think what we did was what you should do when you get to suffer a massive blow to your ego, to your system. You learn from it, and I think that's what Canada's soccer, the men's team especially, obviously the situation, the men's team, they learned. They learned their lesson. They took the lessons from a horrible match and put it forward, and you saw that. Even though, give Haiti full credit, man, they are a scary team. They make you make mistakes. They put long balls forward. They pressure you. If Milan Borjan and a few of the defenders like Scott Kennedy weren't on their toes in the away leg in Haiti, it could have. I don't think we would have lost, but I think that goal really puts a lot. If they get a 1-1 tie coming out of Haiti, that puts a lot of pressure on us back in Chicago. The team just adapted to those kind of games, and Haiti can push they could push a game like that on Mexico and USA. I think Mexico and USA have much more quality to counter that and still get ahead by a few goals and not keep it so close. But Haiti's a good team. Don't take any away from the team. The way they play, they have strong forwards. They push the game. They're fairly mistake free at the back. But we learned that they don't change their style of play because it works for Haiti. So what we did is we adapted our style of play. Back 3, wing backs essentially on the left and the right side. we changed. And also, you can't deny that we also got better these last 2 years. Haiti stayed the same, still a good
Sure.
team. We still filled in the spots that we needed to. You know, Coutinho wasn't playing. He played great at the Olympics this year. Let's not take the qualifiers to the Olympics. He played great for that team. So he also,
Yeah,
as a
he
player, took
did.
great
He
steps
gets too
forward.
much hate.
Exactly. I mean, the mistakes were his mistakes. Also, Borjan really hard that
Yeah.
game against Haiti, as he does.
Borjan blunders, we call them.
Oh, okay, I like that. Yeah, okay, right. Not bad for Mr. Zombie. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's to try and be. I could go on forever, but to try and be concise, we learned the lessons we had to from a loss like that. Because if we didn't learn those lessons, we lost again to Haiti. It's like blow up the program. Keep Alfonso Davies. Keep Jonathan David. Get rid of everybody else. Get rid of the head coaching staff. If we did not come out of that Haiti game, or if you, even that Suriname game, so scary for a bit, if we didn't come out of these qualifiers without learning our lessons from just like, you know, it doesn't have to be blown a lead. Like Canada at the time could, still be tied in a match, and you felt like, oh no, they're losing. They're playing like they're losing.
Yeah.
So we learned our lessons from Haiti 2019, and then our team just got better. Even players like, even though Davies, David, and Cavallini were in the line, Arfield, Atiba Hutchinson were in the lineup for that 2019 Gold Cup match. Those players individually, especially David and Davies, just improved. They've gotten so much better since then. So it's a combination of so many things of why we were able to rebound from that.
For me, something I just want to add, it was all about limiting the other team's chances. In the past, when it seems like we couldn't put in a goal, it seems like the entire field opened up. We just gave the game away. In these games, even when we were playing on a green carpet in Haiti, and we weren't generating anything for minutes and dozens of minutes on end. It didn't feel like we opened up. We had Kennedy and Johnston running at the other team's forwards. We had Eustachio running back when he had to. It never felt like the pitch was just open for the other team to eat us up. We've already mentioned a few names now because we've either complimented or insulted just about everyone. But who impressed you the most over these few games? Who stood out to you? Maybe who you didn't expect.
Well, who impressed me the most, but I expected to step up? Kyle Laren. I think
Yeah.
who he was. I remember watching him. The first men's game I saw was actually a qualifiers against El Salvador at BC Place, and Kyle Laren scoring and being like, "Oh, I kind of forgot Kyle Laren played," because even though I feel like that was the height of his career, some problems were starting to come about. He was not playing great. He was not putting things away. So yeah, Kyle Laren stepped. He was a player stepped to me, not just because he scored the only goal in Haiti. I just think, and he scored obviously at the home leg too. He's just impressed me every single time he's played. I think he's had some off games, not performs as well as you expect him to, but that's good. We have the expectation now of Kyle Laren to be that guy he can be, and I think so. He'll always impress me. Who I didn't expect to impress me? I think that's a question better for somebody else, because I think every player lived up to what he had to do. Every player did what he had to do. Maybe Junior Hoylett showing how quick he was on his goal, because I feel like I haven't seen Junior Hoylett move that fast ever.
And he needs another team. Yeah.
Yeah. He hit the post, and he was the guy that should have been the goal of the game right there. I know it was 3-0, but that was great because I've never seen him move so fast before. He's a great player. He's got great feet and great touches and a great shot. Clearly, we saw back in 2017 against Jamaica, but I've never seen him move that quick, and that shows how hungry he is not only for Canada, but also be like, hey, somebody sign me. I need a team to play for.
And you mentioned Kyle Laren, and that something I wanted to bring up was the front line we saw in these games. I think it's fair to say Jonathan David had his ups and downs. He scored against Aruba. He had the hat trick against Suriname, but he was missing his chances against Haiti. But it's hard to put my finger on it because he's obviously such a talent when he's on. And he, every day he scores against better defenses than Haiti has to offer. What do you think went wrong in those two legs?
I think honestly, it's just luck when it comes to David.
Yeah.
It's bad luck. Let's be clear, it's bad luck for Jonathan David in those situations because, and and also probably a bit of a player who gets in his own head. It seems like you saw in that away leg in Haiti where he had that like breakaway chance he didn't put away. Also, on that, give credit to the keeper for Haiti, Placide. Like, he was the only reason it wasn't 3 or 4-0 in the away leg. Like, he made some amazing... Obviously, Borjan made a few too, but Placide was the only reason why we didn't walk away with more goals in Haiti. So I think David is just bad luck. Like, I'm not going to hold too much against him. So, yeah, I just think you want those goal scorers in those chances. You want them to get there, and I think we'd rather him be there and miss than not be there at all. And that's something we probably couldn't say about a lot of Canada attackers. So, yeah, I think it's just bad luck, and we should just be happy he's there to try and put it away. And the fact he misses, too bad. Just like the team back in 2019, you hope that David takes those, like, okay, next time I'll take a step back, and so when that quick rebound opportunity, I can just put away. Tell you what,
And more broadly, when just talking about the front line, Laren and David have the great individual moments, but personally, I don't think they work as a front two. That's my take. Because I checked the stats and they lost 25 possessions combined in the second leg of the Haiti game, and I was actually more down on our performance overall than I think most people were.
You know what? Let's save the rest of that. Let's save the rest of that question. We're nearing the break time. Let's take a break. We'll come right back and we'll figure out how to answer that. All right.
All right.
Let's go ahead to the break and we'll be right back.
Feel the crackling, steam escaping from your taste buds, burning and yearning in anticipation of hard work paying off. A craft earned and perfected. Hands that give glimpses of guarded family secrets. Taste the air. You dance with the flames. A moth drawn to the lights. The sights attack your eyes like a morning sun. Rising, lifting. Your soul has awakened.
Back to you now. Go ahead.
So just returning to the David Laren front two, I was just mentioning, I was pretty concerned at the lack of a target man. I think both David and Laren are very good poachers. I don't think either of them are capable of holding the ball. Kyle Laren is massive. He's 6'2", but strangely enough, his strength just isn't holding the ball and waiting for the attack to progress up. And personally, that's why I think that's a fault in his formation. What do you think?
I think you're just a big Cavallini fan because you want to see him start for Canada. No, I think you have a lot of good points there, and I think it's tough because you're almost like, well, the form that Laren is in, the form that David can be in, how can you not start them and not start them together? Laren might be better as a sub at half, I guess. Like, that's the problem. Like, when do you bring him on? If you don't have him starting, when do you bring him on? You don't want to wait too late to bring him on because you want his offense or his poaching ability, but you don't want to. Yeah, you maybe want someone who's like a Cavallini. You might want a better target guy who will nail those down out of the air. So I think it's a good spot to be in. We're not sure which great player to start, and I think you're not wrong in starting Laren and David together. Maybe they don't work the best, but that's something I think we got to give it another couple games potentially. Like, not too many because you want to get the results right away. But if they start not proving it's working completely, I think then you try and change up a bit. I think we gotta give it a little bit more time, and then maybe I'm wrong. I'm open to being wrong.
You know what the best part is? The best part is you can still start David and Laren, but you move Laren to his actual position, which is with Besiktas as a winger, where he doesn't have to touch the ball outside the box, which is where he's best. And then you put David as an attacking midfielder, and then you move Cavallini up as a striker. That fixes everything. You get the best of all worlds. You get two great scorers in their poaching positions, and you have your target man.
Hey, I believe you. I believe you. Hey,
that's my opinion.
Yeah, take a seat. Yeah, you're good.
So, speaking of that formation, my ideal formation would be that 4-2-3-1, and that brings us to what we saw, which was the back three. It varied, but for the most part, I would say it's Daniil Henry, Scott Kennedy, Alistair Johnston. I think on one hand, the back three worked well in that everyone seemed to know how to play aggressively. Everyone seemed to know they had to pressure sometimes superior attacks if they're going to be able to progress the ball up to the midfield. And I think that worked well, but I think the problem with the back three is what I just said. It's that we can't get our best players in our best positions. We're relying on David and Laren to be target men when they're not. And, you know, I don't think Johnston, I mean, depending on where he plays, I don't really want him as a wing back. And that really bothered me in the second Haiti. Like, I would have much preferred even Zachary Broguillard if we're mad at Richie Larea now. So do you think the back three is what we should be doing going forward? Do you disagree?
Well, it's gotten results. It's whether we've had a rotating door of who's doing what in the back three and then added on the wing backs. Yeah, I think, but yeah, I have a very simple approach to it. I think it's worked, and I think that it's gotten results. I think all the players who've played, you know, in the back three and on the wing backs have all excelled those games they've played in. I think Daniil Henry, like, we can go on him for a few minutes if you want, but I always liked him as a player. I remember playing FIFA. I always made sure to like get him on the team somehow. I'd always find a way when I was playing like, whatever the third division in England. I'd start a career. I'd always find a way. And playing in Korea, I would see clips of him and be like, okay, he's doing well. I didn't know he was injured. I didn't know that's why he didn't get the call the first roundabout. He played amazing, and I thought, Scott Kennedy, obviously we talked about before. He played great. So yeah, I think that it's, long story short, we're getting the results right now we needed. Looking a little shaky at times versus Haiti, but that's more credit to Haiti than I think discredit to the formation and who's there. Alistair Johnson proved that he is a dog. He fights for everything. He's so fast. He goes, and he was back playing in Nashville like not too long afterwards. So that guy is fit as hell. He obviously can just run forever. And then we have Richard Larea, like, who, for I think you said, I don't know why Canada's maybe mad at him not starting him, but. So yeah, I think just like we were talking about with Laren and David, maybe it's not getting the results we want right now, but it's getting the results. It's working. So it's hard to change something when it's working. If it's it's not broken, don't fix it. So until we get to an opportunity, maybe we're playing a Mexico and a USA and add in Costa Rica, even though we're not going to lose to Costa Rica. I think keep going with it. Keep working. It's working right now. It's getting the most out of, supposedly, if you ask Suriname fans and Haiti fans and maybe other fans, we have the worst back line in CONCACAF, apparently. It's working. So let's just keep going with it until we get to a point like, you know what, like we can't do that kind of formation anymore. We're getting exposed. Keep going with it. I think it works great.
I definitely understand that perspective because we did get those results. We did get 4 wins. It's hard to see much to complain about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to talk. To be honest, I want a Scott Kennedy fan minute because I brought him up a while ago when no one was talking about him, and it's just so good to see how he's been doing with this team. He's such a unique center back in that, like, he's huge. He's 6'4", but he's really fast. I think there was one play in the Suriname game where he outran Geraldo Becker to the ball, and Geraldo Becker is one of the fastest players in the Bundesliga. Like
for every step Kennedy takes is 2 steps for Becker. That's why.
It is, but still, it was.
Oh, I don't know. Nothing to take away from Scott Kennedy. Yeah, as someone who is always a fan first, and then like a broadcaster second, and like an analytics third. Okay. I didn't know who the hell Scott Kennedy was until you brought him up, and then even then I was like, okay, cool. He plays in the second division, the Bundesliga.
That's right.
And I was like, okay, yeah, great. We have more depth of defense. And then he started playing. I'm like, who is this guy? This guy is great. Like, and I think the best part is he does plays where it's like, wow, he just did that. But he also is like, you don't notice him. And you're like, oh, that's great because he's doing a great job of his position. You don't not every play has to be amazing because he's doing the right thing. He's making the right passes. I think that game in Haiti, he looked a little out of sorts. But I'm going to whitewash a lot of those problems we had in Haiti because of the carpet field we were playing on. I just don't think he was making great passes. They weren't strong enough. I just don't think he was ready for the pitch. Other than that, he's been lights out.
This might be completely out of line, but like, how many 6'4", 6'5" center backs in the world can run that fast? Like, I'm serious. How many? Because I don't think it's that many. That's a rare talent he has, and it's what makes me think like he has legitimate Bundesliga potential. There was reports that there was at least one Bundesliga team monitoring him after his game against Cologne where he scored, and like I don't think he'd be out of place at all. And he really impressed me this window. Like I think he impressed everyone.
Yeah,
Um,
I have
yeah.
nothing but good things to say about Canada. Like I said, that one game in Haiti, he looked a little shaky, but I think there was moments for every single player on Canada who looked a little sorts, and I'm going to blame the out of date, you know, malnourished field or whatever how you want to call it there. Like it just looked awful, and I think to go a little more on to give Haiti, the Federation, a little bit of crap here. Uh, I don't know what they're doing wrong. I don't know how they're trying to blame Canada for their problems, but like whatever. I
Oh,
know
that was
I
so
know the
weird.
country is going through a lot of issues, and I'm not ignorant to that fact. But their federation gets money from FIFA and CONCACAF, and they still find ways to make mistakes. They still find ways to play on awful turf. I don't get it, but hey, somebody smarter than me can correct me and tell me why it's happening to them.
For those who aren't aware, their official federation page, they made a post that said, "Canada declares war on us!" Exclamation mark. It
Absolute
was
joke. Like
like
we went
considering
from
the
yeah.
situ
Go ahead.
just considering the situation they're in right now. Like one, that's an incredibly tasteless thing to say, but two, I didn't really understand their criticisms. Like travel passes were one of them. That seems to be a media thing, involving where their media staff can be on the pitch at what times, where their coaching staff, how long their coaching staff can get there in advance. But I don't know, to head your post like that.
Absolute joke, and I think
It was,
I tweeted about that
yeah.
too after we beat them in the home leg, just saying something along the lines of like fix your federation before you start throwing stones. Like it was so what a great Concacaf heritage moment that was of not being able to get your best goalkeeper, a few of your better other players to the away leg, and then having your own players. Like I know it was in French, and I know I used Google Translate to read the articles they're putting about it, but people were speculating like, "Oh, I wonder who
Creole.
I wonder who we're casting blame on in these comments." Like they're obviously blaming their own federation for not being able to figure their shit out.
Yeah.
Like they don't understand. Like I'm totally aware, or like as much as I can be aware of the issues that Haiti as a country is going through right now. But that federation is not poor. I mean, again, someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but they just are incompetent. That's just the way it comes across to me and everybody else who watches that situation go down. They're incompetent. Hot take.
So, so we've railed against a lot of people today. We've railed against our own players. We've railed against other federations, and we're gonna have a few more chances at the upcoming tournament in July, because that's the Gold Cup, where tensions are stoked and everyone gets very angry at each other. And I want to talk a bit about the Gold Cup. I think the big question going in is, now that we have the preliminary squad, the 60-man preliminary squad, of which, for once, most of the teams on the list are correct. Do you think we're going to be getting our A team or our B team at this tournament?
I think we're going to get a mix of both. I think we're going to get a mixture of A and B. I think somebody brought up a good point about, some of these club teams in Europe aren't going to be super thrilled to have their superstars or their future superstars playing even more games this summer. They want their players to have an off season. But I think hopefully those clubs and the, Canada Soccer will come to some sort of agreement like, yeah, the Gold Cup isn't the World Cup qualifiers, but it's still an important tournament, and this helps build our World Cup run in the fall. So I think we'll get a mixture of players, but I just don't think let's not be surprised if some of our top players aren't there because of club situations, which is totally understandable. So yeah, I hope we just get a mix. I hope we get a mix of players who are on our starting 11 and then some on the bench for our qualifiers for the World Cup. I hope we see players who need to be capped for Canada at the Gold Cup, and I hope we see guys who were on the U23 Olympic qualifying roster getting some serious minutes too. I think it's worth, maybe if you have guys like, again, not analysis, but if you have guys like Davies and David at the Gold Cup, maybe don't play them to the USA game. Maybe just play them sparing minutes, like as subs until the USA game, and then play them even more so in the knockout games. Hopefully we finish. I'm assuming we finish second in that group just based on who we have the draw with. So we get a knockout game no matter what. I think have those best players there, but play them very tight minutes. Have them play as subs until you get to games that matter, and then you start playing more guys who you'd see in the World Cup cycle. Because I think a lot of guys need to be capped. We have a few players who need to get that first game under their belt. And we have guys who deserve way more time. Like Buchanan deserves all the time in the world. I think just give him all the minutes. Let him eat all those minutes. Cornelius deserves some time. I'm sure, like if we can get Gutierrez there, I think he's on the roster. Maybe saying guys' names who aren't all on the roster right now, but I think there's guys who deserve lots of minutes who are
Yes,
young,
yeah.
who played for the Olympics. Pantis maybe get him a game. I don't know. Crepeau deserves
There's
some games.
plenty.
Yeah, so I think there's tons of guys, but also still keep your World Cup. Maybe if Arfield can actually join the team, he should play some games. So yeah, I hope the easy answer is I hope we see a healthy mix. And I just wouldn't be surprised if we saw less of the guys we want to be there because of club situations.
I disagree a little because I would really like to see some battles along the fringes of the squad, and if that means not calling Davies, David, or Laren to this window, I'm actually okay with that. I really want to see like Theo Corbian battling out with Tajon Buchanan for who should be getting those spots on the fringes of the team, and I don't think we're gonna have another time to do that until the qualifiers start. I don't just want to be like throwing stuff at the wall and hoping it sticks. Come September, and yeah, I think this is the perfect time to do it. You might say that this is our federation tournament. We have to be taking this seriously, and I'm not going to be one of those people who's saying, well, it's a Gold Cup and I don't really care, because I do care. It is our federation tournament, but I think this time around it's an exception because there's a pandemic going on, and we have, I think, arguably more important games coming in the next few months, and this is the time to experiment. That's what I think. And getting into some of those players, I'd like for both of us to list at least one person who wasn't with our Team World Cup qualifiers who you'd be interested to see in the Gold Cup. Do you have anyone in particular in mind?
Who's not? I think probably
not including the preliminary squad.
Yeah.
Not including the preliminary squad.
And
we'll get to dual nationals later. So.
Who would I like to see at the Gold Cup who I didn't see the qualifiers? Man, I think maybe I think I maybe mentioned Derek Cornelius. I think I'd love to see him play some games. I haven't watched a lot of MLS this year. I've been just I think the Whitecaps don't deserve my time right now. Derek Cornelius, I would, yeah, exactly. You put yourself through that willingly. Yeah, Derek Cornelius is someone who I want to see because, again, the biggest criticism, and I think it's fair to a degree, that we don't have a strong depth chart when it comes to the defense. So, yeah, give him some minutes. I think that'd be great. And then someone, I know it's not the question you asked, but someone who I did see, and I already mentioned once before in the same question, Tajon Buchanan. Get him out there. Get him running. Get him playing as many minutes as possible. So he's someone I saw. Someone didn't get a lot of minutes, but I think he deserves all the time. So Derek Cornelius, first answer, because he didn't play any World Cup games. He played amazing in the Olympic qualifiers. Haven't seen any Whitecaps gameplay of his, but he deserves a ton of minutes, I think, at the Gold Cup.
My answer is another Whitecap, because I kind of stand him in the first episode, and I'm going to keep doing that, because I really love Michael Baldissimo. I think it's one of the most idiotic moves in all of MLS. I'm glad he started last game, but I think it's incredibly idiotic how little he's played. With the amount that the Whitecaps struggle to progress the ball upfield, starting Baldissimo every game would improve them immensely. And they lost their last game with him, but I think we saw more moves into attacking positions with him on the field. And I would have liked to see him over Liam Fraser at the last window. And I think he has a tremendous amount of potential, and I really want to see him get some time at this Gold Cup. Definitely over the likes of Noble Okello or even Ralph Priso. I think Baldissimo deserves to start at least one game.
And to keep on the Whitecap situation, did I see Ryan Raposo's name on the name for this Gold Cup list? Did I?
Yeah, it is.
Is he? Am I underselling Raposo? Am I thinking he's just? I don't think he's that special. I know he's got a lot of speed, but am I wrong in this? I don't understand.
Yeah, there's definitely a few I wouldn't have on there. I think Theo Bear, he needs like a USL loan or something because he was awful at the Olympic tournament. But yeah, I think there are definitely a few questionable names on that list. Raposo is one. I think Chris Twardek, who was just voted the worst player in the Polish Ekstraklasa, or however you pronounce it. I don't think he deserved to be on there at this point. I think maybe I would have liked to see a CPL goalkeeper over Jason Lutweiler, who hasn't played in a year. There are definitely some questionable names on that list. But you know what? A lot of those guys probably won't even be making the squad.
And you know what? So if they make the squad, just then commit to it, I guess. If you're going to put those names on the squad and that's who you're going to go with, play them. Let's just see where our actual depth's at in all those positions. Like, we're not, I'm, either way, I just want to see results, like good or bad for the Gold Cup. It's just like, if you're going to go with say that they don't go with any stars at all, maybe sprinkle in a few stars here, their starters, whoever they may be. But you're like, know what, we're going to treat this more like the Olympic qualifiers, but we're going to add in some, obviously, more veterans, things like that. Then play him, great. You're going to put Raposo in this lineup? Put him in the game. See if he's actually good enough and prove people like me who don't know anything about him other than he's fast wrong.
Like, on one hand, it is a 60-man preliminary squad, so there's going to be, a dozen or so names that you're going to kind of cringe at. But, yeah, I think there definitely are some questions around the fringes of this preliminary squad on who should and who shouldn't have been there. And that brings us right into the dual national conversation, because there's at least two that some people want to see. But on a more positive note, we have four names that a lot of people are excited about. And those are Marcelo Flores, Daniel Jebison, Ayo Akinola, and Luke Singh, who haven't played for Canada, and a lot of people are excited about. Particularly the first three. I think it's incredible that a few months ago everyone was saying Flores, or I guess a month ago Jebison, everyone was saying these guys are long shots. Like, they're committed to better national programs. They're not going to give Canada a shot. But now we have these guys in a preliminary squad, and it looks like the Canadian Soccer Association would have had to ask them if they want to be on it or not, which means they would have had to say yes. So for me, Flores and Jebison, they're tremendously highly rated in England, and I'm like really ecstatic to see them in our preliminary squad. If they do get in, or if you think they should get in, how do you think we should play them? Should we cap time them right away? Should we be throwing them into 4 games so that they can't make the one-time switch as per the current rules? How do you think we should be handling the situation? And how excited are you?
Yes to all of them. Is that a good answer?
I'm sorry.
Yes, you're right. No, okay, hold on, but no, that's great. You know a lot more about. I know these great players, but you know a lot more in depth about these dual nationals than I do. But I knowing as much as I do, don't worry. Listen to me. I think we should do exactly that. Cap tie them if they want to play. And you're right. If they've been asked to listen, we need your permission to even put your name on this roster, then they're interested. And if they make the next sort of round, not really cuts, but the final roster for the Gold Cup, and they're still on it, play them right away. Very first game, play them right away. Cap tie them, and then see how it goes. And then if they're up for more games, and they're because obviously these players are smart enough to have these conversations, like they'll say, or their agent will say, or whoever will say, oh no, we're gonna play one game and that's it, or what have you. We don't want to cap tie us going forward. We don't want to play the 4 games. But if you have the opportunity to do it. Cap tie them right away, get them the first game, and after that, play them every game afterwards. And so going forward, our depth is almost to a point where names who are left off the World Cup qualifier roster is like, wow, like really look at the depth of Canada, because we'll start seeing names that have become regulars not on there anymore with these guys coming in potentially. I don't know where exactly or how we should play them, because again, you can give me more in depth about where these guys fit better into the lineup than others than I might give the answer. But I think to the first parts of your question, absolutely cap tie them right away, and if they're working and it's a fit and they have no objections, get them as many games as possible. It's like, there's no more question about who you're representing.
Yeah, just for some greater context, Marcelo Flores is with the Arsenal youth setup, and he grew up in Canada, but it seems like his father has been pushing him to represent Mexico instead. And we tried to call him up, I think in the January of last year to our preparatory camp, or I guess that was this year. And he was going to come, but he had to pull out at the last minute. And yeah, he is very highly rated. He's one of Mexico's top prospects, and to steal him away would be very funny. But I think he's genuinely in the conversation with maybe not Davies and David, but like the likes of Jaquil Marshall-Ruddy for some of our top prospects. And then you got Daniel Jebison, who's with the Sheffield United setup, and he actually made his debut in the English Premier League. He's made 4 appearances. He's already scored. He's the youngest player ever to start and score in the English Premier League. So that was a big deal. He's played with English youth setups already, and a lot of people thought he would be waiting them out, to get his call up in 5, 6 years, whenever it ends up happening. But if we can get him to commit early, that would be huge. Sheffield are going to be playing in Championship, English Championship next year. But yeah, with the clubs that he's been linked to already, that would be a huge get in Daniel Jebison. Ayo Akinola, of course, the Toronto FC striker who's already played a friendly for the United States. Generally well thought of, very physical. I think it's fair to say he's behind 3 or 4 guys, but we don't. He's a pure 9 like Cavallini, and we don't really have too many of those. So in the short term, he's definitely a get, and potentially in the long term. And then Luke Singh, who's definitely not as good as the other guys, but he's also eligible for Trinidad and Tobago. He was going to attend our camp, but then Trinidad drawed with Bahamas, so we decided not to. And yeah, he's good center back depth, at least in the short term.
Yeah, that's Akinola's an interesting case.
And then 2 more names.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So I think Akinola is an interesting.
So I'm just going to rattle on a bit about other things. Go ahead.
Yeah, Akinola is maybe I hope I'm saying his name right, but he's really interesting because he's already played the one friendly for USA, and then he was in Canada's camp these last qualifiers, and now he's in the Gold Cup roster. So like, as someone who knows him I know him from the outside. I know who he is. I know his position. All those things. I don't know a lot of the character of the player, but it's interesting that he's already played. Is he just really feeling out who he can play with? Is he just really putting the time in? Like, hey, smart on him if he can do that. But it's as someone who doesn't know 100%, like this seems kind of odd that he's again, figure your options out, do what works best for you. But like, yeah, playing 1 game already for the U.S. at our camp in our roster. It's like, well, who are you leaning towards? It's hard for me as a fan to understand what his thought process is.
I think for Akinola, when he played with the United States, he was higher up on their depth chart. I don't think they had I forget the guy in Switzerland's name. I don't think they had him committed yet. I don't think Hop or Sargent were doing well at the time, and he was higher up on their depth chart. But the United States have like a plethora of dual nationals at all times. They have 1 trillion guys in the MLS, and he's fallen a bit down since then with his injury and with his recent form. But yeah, I think right now, while his stock is low, I think it's a perfect opportunity for us to grab him if he's filed his one-time switch, which I think, he might already be ours if that's already happened. The 2 more names I wanted to mention who weren't on the list were Lucas Diaz, who we saw at the Olympic qualifiers, who seems to be raw but an immensely skilled dribbler, who maybe didn't get as much playing time as he should, and Stefan Mitrovic, who is with Radnicki in Serbia. His father is very angry on Twitter.
Again, as someone who knows, like I always joke that I know enough information of certain things to have a tough conversation about. Seeing that and not reading into it more than that, just sort of reading the first tweet about his dad doing that, I was like, oh my god, I couldn't believe that. I know people are doing that at all levels of sports, so I should never be surprised. But it's just that, like, okay, that's a great way to get yourself on the team, is have your dad talk about it. Like, oh my, do we really want that guy? Even no matter how good he might be, even though he's just playing the Serbian league, but he's really hasn't come on too many people's radar the last little while. More so probably because his dad's tweeting about it. Yeah, that's crazy. I couldn't believe that when I saw that. But again, it happens. As someone who's worked at all levels of sports, I've seen way worse things.
Yeah, and for the record, what I've seen from Mitrovic, Stefan Mitrovic's interviews, he's a lot more mature than his father.
Good sign. It's a good sign.
Yeah. Why Lucas Diaz might not have accepted the call, I think it's because he's trying to break into Sporting's B team, so that's taking priority at the moment. I think he's still a while away, a bit away from a Portugal call. Maybe a youth one is closer. But I think I'm more confident about him. I would have been, if you asked me a month ago, I would have been way more confident about Lucas Diaz than Marcelo Flores or Daniel Jebison. And for Stefan Mitrovic, I genuinely think the CSA doesn't rate him at this point. And, I think his father's a bit nuts. But I definitely would have liked to see him over, Theo Baer or, as you said, Ryan Raposo over Chris Twardek. I would have liked to see him in this preliminary squad.
Yeah,
because
go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well, he's very young, and he's playing in a top setup. He hasn't gotten the playing time we would have liked, but I mean, I don't think there's any harm in putting him on the preliminary squad.
Which is too bad, because I was going to touch on Theo. I know we talked to him a little bit, Theo Baer, but yeah, he's one of those players, man, who's got this great ceiling, it seems like, and then just never achieves it. But you want to see him get those, like at the Olympics. I thought, okay, he's going to have an impact sorry, Olympic qualifiers. We didn't get the Olympics. I thought he was going to have an impact. He kind of did at moments, and even for the Whitecaps, every now and then, he scored that goal against Toronto when they kind of had that weird Canadian Championship series going on. Like, oh, wow, like this is another big guy, like you mentioned, Kenny, another big guy who can move, who can run, and he can shoot. And then you don't see it again for 6 months or a year sometimes. Like, it seems like Theo Bair's been around for a lot longer than he actually has, because he has these great moments, these flashes of pure talent and like athleticism and skill, and he stands out in the field. He's got like a great personality and works hard. So I don't know if it's a matter of things just not falling for him. He's just not getting the luck. He's just not, Whitecaps are not a good team. Not to give them even more, problems right now. But like he's just not getting delivery, not getting the chances. But yeah, I would love to see him step up, but he just hasn't. And so yeah, other guys who have parents meddling in their affairs will get a chance before him because they are just better players. Like, and Theo has been given all the chances to do it and just hasn't. I don't think. And maybe he'll watch your show and he'll prove us wrong. But yeah, not to harp on him too much, but I just wanted to point that out, that I think we need someone like Theo Bair to work his way up, but he just hasn't, and that's too bad because he's a local homegrown product, right?
Yeah, and for the record, like I take no joy in harping on Canadian youth players. Like, we want everyone to succeed. I never really participated in the Godino bashing because I think he made one bad play, and Borjan does those all the time, and we all love Milan Borjan. Yeah, but for Theo Bair in particular, I think he's the type of player who's he's like a 6'3" guy who relies more on his finesse than his size. And for that kind of player, I think it either works really well or it doesn't work at all, and they don't adapt to a professional level. And I think that's sort of happening with Bair. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but like I just haven't seen it from him this year. And it's the reason why the Whitecaps went and acquired Brian White, because like you can't be relying on Theo Bair and Toss Ricketts as your depth strikers.
And that's what Canada did, as a national team did for a while. They laid on, and Ricketts was way better when he was playing regular with them. But I think it's great that we're having these in-depth discussions about players who should be making the team now. Because I think, as relatively young Canada soccer fans that you and I are, we haven't had this kind of depth before. So now that we're having these conversations, like who shouldn't be or who should be on the team, because we have so many players to choose from now, or at least it seems that way, is probably a good problem to have. Just like we've talked about, who should start over like Larin and Cavallini. Like, this is a good chance. I mean, it's a good thing we're having these conversations, because we've never had this before, at least in my time. And I'm sure older Canada soccer fans will say exactly the same thing. Like, finally we're talking about players who should be better, because that's the standard now we have set. We have a standard now where we want players to play a certain way, and they're just not delivering. So let's move on to the next guy who's just as good, or if not better.
I remember, I don't know, I cared about Canadian soccer when I was like 8 years old, even like when everyone who cared about soccer at school was cheering for some team in Europe. And I just remember playing the World Cup 2010 FIFA game, and I remember looking up some of the players in the reserves, and I was like, oh, where do these guys play? Maybe like MLS, or maybe some smaller team in Europe. And indoor soccer league.
Well,
okay.
that was the joke. That I think there's a great piece that FIFA did a few years ago about Canada's only trip to the World Cup, and Leonard Doozy's in it.
Yeah.
And he was saying, when they got the draw for their World Cup group, a bunch of them are warming up for an indoor soccer match in Tacoma. Like, that's a great way to get ready to take on France. But look how far we've come since then. So that's something to be pretty happy about.
Oh my god, I love how that's like the top video on YouTube when you look up Canadian soccer.
FIFA's also another good one about Canada winning the Gold Cup in 2000. That one's well done as well. It's got, I think, is it Martin Nash who was the player? That's a really good piece too. I sort of find myself going down the rabbit hole occasionally with FIFA videos.
Yeah, me too.
And that's a good one.
We don't need to anymore though.
Yeah, well, we'll see. If we're talking about that, let's start looking ahead to what to expect of the Ocho then, or the whoever. I think it's the Ocho. Other people are properly calling it the Octagon, but if you call it the Octagon, you're a nerd. Call it the Ocho.
Based as the Oct. You have to call it now. And I guess on a more serious note, just getting back to the Gold Cup. How well do you expect to do? Do you think a semifinals appearance should be expected? Do you think a finals appearance is realistic? How well do you expect us to do?
This is such lazy answers, but we have to wait and see what the roster's like.
Yeah, you're right.
I still expect to get through to the knockout stages no matter what. No matter who we put forward, I think just because of our group, our depth, and even if we have a B squad, I think we still have a very competitive B squad. It all comes down to who's on our roster. I still expect to get through the group stage, play a knockout game. So whether we go to that knockout stage with a group similar to the U23 team we saw back in March for the limit qualifiers, or it's our like mixture of top guys and young guys, I still expect that no matter what. If we miss out of the group stage, that's a huge disappointment no matter who we have there. But then our success in the knockout stages is based on who we brought there. If there are names on there like Davies, David, if Borjan for whatever reason ends up playing, I doubt it, but if he does end up playing, add more guys who we saw just play in June, then yeah, I expect a semifinals, and I expect us to push like it to be a very hard fought semifinals, no matter who we get. I expect it to be a very close game. But yeah, outside the quarterfinals, I'm gonna wait any expectations other than we deserve to get there, and then after that, it's all about who we brought.
Yeah, I agree to an extent in that, like, I think no matter who we bring, we should be beating Martinique. By the way, do you remember that game where Martinique beat us? But anyways, we should be beating... Oh, well, they beat us at one point, and it was awful. But, yeah, we should be beating Martinique. We should be beating Haiti, no matter who we bring. Moving on to, I guess, the OCT, just for these last few minutes.
Yeah.
I just called it what I made fun of people calling it.
That's okay.
I'm a bad person. There's sort of been a conversation, like, beyond the opponents we're playing, on where we should be playing this games, and it's kind of hilarious to me that, like, Canada has 40 million people, but we have like 2 or 3 realistic venues for matches, and it's amazing how long-winded these conversations could get about like which 2 out of these 3 locations we should be using. But I guess to contribute to that discussion, whether I like it or not, where do you think we should be playing? Just to start off with the first 2 matches against Honduras and El Salvador.
Well, I hate the assumption that it's always going to be at BMO Field, because as someone based in Vancouver, I'm just absolutely tired about hearing about Toronto in any respect. But it should be at BMO, even to go roundabout way to say the first couple games should be at BMO, travel-wise, time zone-wise. But so I would say the only 2, I get another really lazy, easy answer for me. The only 2 options we should be playing at, and just base it on our travel and time zone and where we're going, it should be only Toronto and only BC Place and nowhere else.
No Commonwealth Stadium?
No.
Edmonton? No.
Toronto and Vancouver. Those are the only places we playing games. And they can throw a curveball. If they want to play a game in January in Calgary or what have you, go for it. Do it. Prove me wrong. Like, I would love to see us explore more of this country and what we have to offer, and show these countries traveling how cold it gets here in certain parts of the country, and to really make them pay for that. But it doesn't mean most of our players playing that anymore. They may have grown up in it, but they don't play in that cold anymore. So what's the point in making both teams suffer? So yeah, in my mind, only 2 options: Toronto and Vancouver for the games, and then maybe throw in a curveball of like Montreal or somewhere in the middle of the country. But it doesn't make any sense when you have the infrastructure, the facilities already made in Toronto and Vancouver.
In terms of ticket revenues, I agree. I just don't see it as realistic that we're going to be playing a game in like Halifax or
no.
Or
and again, if we do it, great. Let's do it. Commit, go full swing.
But it's just like, as Canadian soccer fans, we're always the ones complaining that we're not setting up friendlies. Our gift to Dwayne De Rosario when he won Player of the Year was like a Sony gift card. Like, we can't complain about that, but also be wanting to host games in Halifax where the ticket revenue is going to be a fraction of what it is in Toronto. Like, our association is cash strapped, and we need that money. And like, to that extent, I understand why we need to be playing every game in Toronto, Vancouver, Edmonton, or wherever.
Yeah.
My fantasy though was making Mexico play in ATCO Field.
No, I think it would have been hilarious to make one of those teams come play. But we've got given a pretty nice bonus here by FIFA for penalizing Mexico. There won't be any fans at the game. Canada plays in Mexico, so maybe we'll balance it out, because they'll get a fan base no matter where they go. So if they come to BC Place or they go to BMO Field, they'll have some supporting fans there. So hopefully we can use the elements against them. But I'm more looking forward to the match in Mexico to see, because there won't be any fans throwing Ziploc bags of pee at our players. So we'll be able to get through that game hopefully.
No, but we have an equivalent of that in Spruce Meadows. Wouldn't it be hilarious? Like, just as the horses are heading off the field, we make Mexico play on like a field of horse dung.
Yeah, and then Alfonso Davies breaks his ankle because a horse forgot to eat a certain patch of grass they're using. Yeah, I mean, again, if Canada goes to these places and we get packed, like, smaller barns with the great facilities, but it's a great atmosphere, do it. That would be great. I'm totally into it. Like, BC Place is a great venue, but the field, I understand why players don't want to play on a turf field. Like, so maybe that works in our advantage, maybe that doesn't. But yeah, if we're going to do it, do it. But obviously, I think there's no question it's going to be BMO first, BC Place second, and then random third, like, just because they got to try and at least spruce it up.
Last question.
Yep.
No matter where we end up playing, no matter what our squad ends up looking like, how realistic do you think it is to qualify for this upcoming World Cup in Qatar?
I think the first two spots are almost a lock. Things can happen, obviously. I think Mexico and USA have those top two spots. Obviously, USA has it, just like us, has a history of maybe falling a little short. It's more recent as well, like especially against Trinidad and Tobago. So there's always a chance, but I think both those teams are too good a quality to not finish at least two of those spots. 3 and 4, I think, is open. I think if Canada just misses out, I won't be disappointed. But there's I'm not concerned about them playing anyone else other than USA and Mexico, and maybe throw in like an away match in Costa Rica will be tough. An away match in Honduras will be tough. But I think it's realistic to expect that they could make a third or fourth spot. If they made the playoff spot even and lost the playoff game, you'd be like, you know what?
I want to talk about that. Yeah.
But that was like, you know what? That's still something to be proud of. That's still something we can take. So I think it's realistic. But if we fall short of that fourth spot, we're allowed to be upset.
Yeah, I understand that. And it's kind of weird to me because I was the one most nervous about Suriname, but I'm the one most bullish on, like, we should be getting that fourth spot over Costa Rica or Panama because I think we're good enough to do that even if we can't edge out Honduras. I really think that should be our expectation. I don't like viewing this window as pure preparation for 2026. No. But just I'm extraordinarily excited for us getting that fourth spot and then drawing Uruguay.
That'd be great. Yeah, I mean, like, let's the most thing we can hope for, and I say it every year when I watch a certain sports team, I just want those final games to matter. If those final games matter for something, like, as long as we're not playing those last three internationals, like, Canada has to win all three and somebody has to lose all three. No, as long as those last few matches matter, it's something we can be proud of. And they finished fifth. It sucks, but they fought all the way to the end. I just don't want to make those last window we have for the qualification matter.
James, thanks for joining me today.
Awesome. You know what? We managed to fill a full hour, and we weren't sure we were going to do it, just you and I think we can hold our heads high that we did it. So thanks for talking to me, man, and I'll see you soon. See you, buddy.
Welcome to MyBookie. You're ready to create an account and start making money, and we're here to help. And remember, you can get a bonus of up to $1,000 on your first deposit. Now you're ready to bet. Just go to mybookie.ag, visit the sportsbook, click on your bet, and input the amount you want to risk or win in the bet slip. Yes, it's that easy. Just remember, at MyBookie, you play, you win, you get paid.
What?